Welcome to The Way, the conscious way, the way of conscious mindfulness. Hi, CV Boggy here once again, and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness. Well, firstly, who am I and what the heck is this show about? Well, I am Sifu Boggy. Sifu means the guide, muse, somebody who shows you, guides you along your path. Boggy means the balance between the chaos and the calmness. Now, for the last 36 years, I've been studying the Taoist arts. The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. And I've been studying the Taoist arts of Dragon Dog Shaman, which they called themselves the scientific magicians, and the Barefoot Doctor, which was basically a practitioner who helped heal and coach others to heal and coach themselves. And also studying different skills like Qigong, Tai Chi, Reiki, Shin Chi Shen, and many other different modalities. Now, what is the aim of this show? Well, the show, The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, is a weekly podcast and Facebook Live show discussing spirituality and science, balancing health and well-being with mind, body, and spirit, with a Taoist twist. Again, what is the Tao? The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. Now, surprise, surprise, we are not the normal talk show. Each week we either have a guest or we have a subject. Now, this week we have, it's an interesting show. It's not the normal show, but we'll get to that in a second. So this week we have two guests, and our aim is to have an open discussion to help us all find new skills, new techniques, new ways to balance our very own personal Tao way, the path. Now, as I said, it's a little bit different this week. Why is it different? Well, these guys are a little bit different. These guys are on their own path themselves of learning, but I'll let them discuss. I'll let them explain that to you themselves. So let's bring them on. They literally just turned up just as we went live, so we haven't had much setup or warning. So here we go. So, hello, sirs, and welcome to the show.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Hey, how you doing?
I am good. All is good. All is well. So, right. So normally we have a practitioner or a healer or somebody of a skill set, who then the show is about their way, their Tao. But you guys are a little bit different. Why are you a little bit different? What are you all about?
Well, we're just two normal, regular guys, I guess, and trying to be very humble and just trying to find our way. And as you know, we've set up a podcast. We're in the process of building it up, interviewing people. It's quite early on, and the reason behind it, the genre, I suppose, if you want to call it, of the podcast is all come about because we're just tired of living in the same old rat race. Everyone's running around 9 till 5, working their butt off, trying to earn the money, trying to earn the pennies, you know, to live this life that's been predetermined, or how can I put it, this image of what life should be on you, and how you should conform to it. And I think we've just come to a bit of a road in our lives where we thought this isn't sort of the path that we want to continue taking. So the podcast is about meeting new people who enjoy all different subjects and hold a manner of different interests. And we want to understand more about them and where they want to go with their life and why they don't want to perhaps conform to the normal way of living. I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
But that something like that sounded pretty blooming good, actually. So Right, so my audience is quite varied, and we've got a lot of guys in lots of people in America, and my lot are quite spiritual, I would say, to a degree. But there's a little thing in your title. We might have to explain what your title, the two tall twats. Now in England, twat can mean an idiot or fool.
Yeah.
I know in America it can mean something totally different.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to make. I thought I'd better make it clear that they're you guys London boys, Londonish.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Outside.
So in London, twat means you're a fool. You're a little bit, you're not necessarily all there. So that's what the terminology is, because we've already had a few people saying, what is this show about, when it's got two tall twats in the title. So and that's all cool. But I love this concept. I love this idea. So in essence, something's up, and you're looking to try to find a way for you guys personally to sort of find your own balance.
Yeah. I mean, like the Western capitalist model doesn't seem to make people very happy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What have you done? So, what different things have you tried so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've done a mixed bag, and of course, we told it's in the infancy, and we're just starting out, and we're just putting feelers out. So, of course, I mean, we've been to a vineyard and just understood why these people started up their own business, just doing wine. I mean, they came from a completely different background. We went to see an art forger. The gentleman's name was David Henty, very interesting character, and how this forging art took his part of his life. We did a sound spa.
Yeah,
that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, went swimming with a mermaid.
Swimming with a mermaid, yeah, that's quite a
That was good. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like the way there's two different versions of that. Well, one very good, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. That was a good experience. But what else?
Went to meet Britain's flashiest playboy, Danny Lambo.
Yeah. But I mean, there's no. How can we put it? We're not particularly aiming for a particular character or characteristic with an individual or any particular trade or skill or whatever field of expertise they come from. Just a whole mixed bag, because how can I put it? Of all the people that you meet in all the world, everyone faces challenges. Everyone seems to have their own issues that they're facing. It doesn't matter where they come from. So what we've done is just gone along, understood more about what they do, where they've come from, where they are now, and where they're looking to go. And some of them are very quirky people. And it's, very enjoyable, very insightful. I mean, what we've learned is, I think that's probably the main thing. What we've learned is that from where everyone's come from, or whatever their background is, we're all in the same boat to a certain extent. We're all facing our own challenges. And it's, I mean, one thing is interesting, the people that we speak to, a lot of people that we speak to, are aware of the situation they're in and the troubles they've had, and now they're looking to change it. There's a lot of people out there who aren't, and I think so. With the podcast, one of the main aims is trying to bring awareness to that. Because people, they don't have the motivation to change, or they don't have the self-awareness, or I don't know, but that's another element to it.
Well, you say that. I think the awesome thing is that, in some ways, you guys are just like one or two steps ahead of the people your podcast will probably interest, because there'll be people who haven't got a clue, know there's something wrong, but don't know how to change it and how to do. And the whole thing is you're doing that. You're that's why I love the title, is that you don't, you don't care. You'll go and make a fool of yourself and fight and do these things.
Hopefully
But
not.
then, you know, all right, maybe not make a fool of yourself, but you know, you'll test these things out, and try them, and I find it quite, you know, I do find that really interesting, because I mean, I come from I'm really interesting background in. For me, let's like because this is a different show to normal, because normally it's about focus. It's almost like you are the interviewers for a change.
Yeah, we'll try not to.
Interesting.
We're talking about
Oh
that.
no, do it. I love it. I love all that sort of stuff. But anyway, you'll find that out. I as a kid I was bullied. Got the old large noggins, and I didn't actually know until 10 years ago, but I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic. And for those people who don't understand what that is, dyslexia is like sort of being a foreigner in your own country, or it's sort of like somebody taking your brain out, turned it round and put it back in, and everything's slightly rewired. And so I see things from a different point of view. And as a kid, you know, I'm a 1970s kid, so I was, you know, picked on and bullied. And my, you know, I started martial arts about 11 years old, and the martial art I did actually had a lot of meditation in it. And you know, most of the other people doing it didn't really enjoy the meditation bit. I loved the meditation bit. The meditation bit was my favorite bit.
Yeah.
And then eventually I did belt testing, and in the belt, where you go for the belts, they would bring in an adjudicator from the Chinese Martial Art Society. So it's an outside adjudicator. And this guy was sort of a little bit like Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know this till late, but well, I didn't know this until about 6 months later. But he did that job for an ulterior motive. His aim was to find students. He was looking for certain people, and the irony is that the way I was, this out of the box thinker, this quirky kid, for everybody else, which is like technically an issue or a problem or they don't understand, that's exactly the sort of person he was looking for. And he ended up, you know, asking my parents, and ended up teaching me Shaolin martial arts, Kung Fu, or Gung Fu as it should be taught, but the biggest thing was Taoist philosophy. Now, like, as I said at the beginning of the show, Tao means the way, the path, the balance. And the Tao is sort of like an app. Is that, you know, if you've got a bad back, I've got an app for that. If you're struggling with finding a new idea, I've got an app for that. So Taoism, and then all the other little, you know, all these different systems within it, it's all about finding ways to find your personal balance. Now, this guy and his brother were actually, he was a very well known in the East. He was a very well known statistician and military sort of expert, and his brother was a big healer, and they basically taught me both those paths. So one is the barefoot doctor side. You ever heard of Stephen Russell, the barefoot doctor?
I think so.
There is actually a guy who used to. He's more like the 90s, but there's a guy called Stephen Russell who used the term barefoot doctor. The barefoot doctor in China was actually traditionally a woman, and it's sort of a metaphor. Is that they had no. They used the skills that they could hold. You know, they would adapt to the situation, and they literally went from village to village, teaching, healing, and coaching people, and that was sort of their mission. And then the other brother was a dragon dog shaman. And as I sort of said at the beginning of the show, dragon dog shamans, they described themselves as scientific magicians, because they said that magic was purely science, not yet understood. And they said this, like, this word science was slightly different, but they said this around about like 2,000 years ago. And they understood things like sacred geometry, which is a thing called the flower of life. You heard of the flower of life? So the 64 circles, well, that's pattern itself, the flower of life, can basically be found in sunflower seeds, in your skin, that in the universe itself. That pattern is being found, sacred geometry is being found all through the universe. And these guys used to study all this sort of stuff. So I started learning this stuff. Now, the really weird thing, so I did things like Qigong, which means energy exercise. So if you ever see any movies of like in the parks in China, and they're doing all that gentle movement, that's basically Qigong. Qigong, like I said, means energy exercise. And a bit like what I said about the app, Qigongs, there's many different Qigongs. And if you've got a bad back, there's a Qigong for that. If you want to improve your soccer, for those in America, or your football skills, I used to teach. I teach a thing called Tai Chi sports or Qigong sports, where using those skills, those techniques, I can enhance people's sports. And the weird thing is that working with these guys, that I actually found that they worked with FT, the financial districts, the FT 100 index businesses. And there's this really weird thing that in the West, like if you say to somebody, oh, I work with a psychic, a lot of people go, yeah, really? Yeah, or that's a bit woo-woo. But in the FT 100 index businesses, these businesses that are earning millions of pounds, they use psychics, they use empaths. An empath is sort of like a telepath, read your mind, an empath reads your emotions. So they read people's emotions. They use feng shui practitioners. So a feng shui practitioner they sort of use the energy of they work out, they rearrange. The easiest sort of way of saying it is they rearrange furniture and they set things up in certain positions to enhance energy. But in China, a building for like a major multi-million pound industry, that not one brick will be put into the ground until that feng shui practitioner has actually made sure that area is actually correct. And then every step of the way, that feng shui practitioner will be making sure that everything is built in the correct way and things are put in the right way. So there's this really weird thing that in these real multi-million pound businesses, where everyday people were thinking, oh, that's a load of crap, that's a load of rubbish, energy healing, oh, that's a load of rubbish, oh, Qigong, because I had that from like the last 20, 30 years. People, oh, you have to believe in it for the work. And it's like, well, actually, there is, actually for us in the UK, you've heard of like Camelots, the lottery people. Yeah. I originally worked for Camelots with the staff, but also occasionally with multimillionaires, teaching them exercises to de-stress them, to help them where they've just earned all this all these like millions. I was sometimes brought in to teach them these exercises to calm them down. And for like going on to the Qigong, you had in businesses, you have businesses that will actually pay their staff to do Qigong for half an hour every single day at the beginning of their shift, because the case studies show that doing Qigong, energy exercise, helps reduce absenteeism, improves productivity, and is a great team building skill. And then the same can be said about massage. The same, these like multi-million businesses, the reason they use these psychics or they use these empaths who can sense emotions, is that it gives them the edge to the competitor. If they can figure out if the competitor's hiding something or there's something wrong in that information, and that empath says, they're holding something back, there's something, and they can delve deeper, that could save them millions of pounds. And so there's this really weird thing in the world where you get normal people saying, oh, this is no bollocks, I don't believe in that, it's crap. But but you've got multi-million-pound businesses using it. You've got all over the world. You've got different police forces using psychics because they'll say if nothing else works, they'll try it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so there's this really weird thing in our society. It's like we feel this, you know, lots of people I know, you know, sort of, look, you know, there's something missing. I don't know what's missing. They're trying to find these things, but they're really put off by some of this stuff. But when you've got business using it, it's like, oh, hold up, you know, what's not being said here? You know, why are these businesses using this stuff that we're supposed to think is all a load of rubbish?
Mm.
And I can go on.
No, yeah, it's interesting how these different concepts from different countries, whether it's over in the East, and how they're perceived in Western society, and yeah, people over here think, oh, it's a bit of woo-woo and that, but
yeah,
you know, we've had many conversations and pursued different methods to try and help with whatever we've been going through as individuals. You know, but I think we've had the conversation, and my thought on it, and I think Jim agreed, is anything can work for you if you believe in it. And all the different counseling, therapy, hypnotherapy, meditation, whatever it is, whether there's any actual, how can I put it, truth behind it, or actual scientific way that it actually does work, is irrespective. If the individual believes in it and it works for them, then that's all that matters. So yeah, if businesses, if they introduce this, if the people or the individuals within that business can think they can work, then it's going to work. It's almost like a placebo effect.
I'll throw a little something in for you. You know, medical case studies. You know, there's a thing called, or well, not just medical, but all science. They have what's called blind case studies.
Yeah.
Do you know why they do blind case studies?
To counter for placebo effect.
Part of it, back in the 1910, when we did the first experiments of quantum physics, when they were splitting the atom, you had the top scientists, Einstein being one of them at the time. They were, I'm paraphrasing slightly, they, you know, like say you had 6 of these top scientists, and they all said, right, when we split the atom, one said, right, 1's going to happen. The other one said, no, 2's going to happen. The other said 3. The other said 4. The other said 5. The other said 6. So they all went off, did their experiment. They all came back, and they all were right. And then they said, well, hold up. How can we all be right? So they all swapped their experiments, went off, did their experiments, and they all proved that what they said, they did the other person's experiment, but what they said was going to happen, happened. And again, they were totally perplexed and said, this doesn't make any sense. And then they spent the next 5 years studying this, and basically they found within our reality is that the observer affects the experiment.
Yeah.
So the whole point is that if you know what the experiment is and you have a certain viewpoint to that experiment, you will actually alter the experiment.
Because you're interacting.
So, you're interacting. Because this goes on the whole thing. Because if you haven't figured out already, I actually love quantum physics. I love science and I love spirituality, because at this point in our reality, quantum physics is actually matching up with what they were saying. The ancient ones were saying like 2,000 years ago, but we'll possibly get to that. So there is this. So there's this interesting thing now that you said about the placebo effect. Did you know, which the medical, it's open records to a degree, is that 80% of placebos work. I'll repeat, 80% of placebos work. Now, they've gone to meaning that if somebody thinks they're taking the real deal and they take that tablet, that drink, that whatever, they've actually got between 40 and 90% improvement in their health and well-being by taking the placebo, to the point where they've actually done, and they actually even do placebo cancer treatments, as in the old radiotherapy and the radiation, and people have actually lost their hair and that their skin's actually burnt because they believed the machine that they were using on them was real.
I know they've done placebo heart operations where they've told people they've put stents in and haven't, and then they've had the recovery.
Now, what that led to was actually led to the FBI wondering this, if this placebo effect, this believing in something and making it happen, how wide that field goes. So the FBI started experiments back in the late 60s, and ending around about the 80s, 85, and they started getting a group of spiritual people, meditators, and they started getting a group of people to come together and meditate in an area to see if it would affect the area. The second to last experiment they did was in Washington State with 2,000 people. FBI information, look it up on Google, it's still there. And they had 2,000 people meditating for a whole weekend, and they dropped the crime rate for no other reason. The crime rate dropped by 25%. The last experiment that the FBI did was with 7,000 people worldwide, and they got them to focus on terrorism, and they dropped for those few days that those people were meditating. Now, this was pre-September 11th, 2001. They dropped the terrorist rate, so the terrorists all over the world, by 70%. So the terrorist rate dropped by 70%. Funny enough, a year later, September 11th happens, which is really interesting, but that's probably a conspiracy for another time. But there's all this information building up that certain organizations, certain people know that certain things are happening. There was a thing called, back in the 70s, with science wanted to prove once and for all, is there a connection with everything to the universe? Are we all connected? And they did certain experiments that actually proved, and they actually named it. They named that there is an energy called the field that interconnects absolutely everything. So like there's that thing of like a friend, you're thinking of a friend and suddenly they call you up. It's scientifically shown that is because there's an energy called the field that actually ripples like water. So when one person is thinking of another person, that energy is actually transferred through time and space. So you've got all these little snippets of stuff out there, and it's like, what? And you start picking all these different things up, and you start seeing, but yet, Muggle world, us lot, where a lot of this is sort of like kept slightly out of our reach, or just slightly out of our thing. So people sort of talking about, they want disclosure, or they want things to improve. We're the guys doing it. You're the guys doing it, because by doing a podcast, by actually showing, slowly going out there and actually finding stuff, whatever you find, you'll share that information with other people who will share it with other people. The internet is one of the best things that ever happened, and the irony was the internet was created by scientists just to pass information.
So they've succeeded in that.
So again,
they've succeeded in creating something to pass information around.
Indeed. But what now obviously happens, you've got overstimulation. So it's up to an individual to sort of try to sift through what's tosh and what's actually, good stuff. But then that's the old days. We used to read a newspaper and you'd have people think it's gospel. Now, and the interesting thing at the moment, obviously, like in America, you've got a certain president. Well, they only got one. You've got a certain president who's obviously everything's fake news. If it's not what I agree with, it's fake news. And that's the interesting thing now, is that the old the old news faculties, the old news industry is now being overwhelmed with news coming from Facebook, YouTube, all these other things, and you've got individuals. It's quite funny. I don't know if you guys ever saw, there was a movie, it was back in the 90s by Christian Slater called Pump Up the Volume, and he was a radio guy. And
Awful. It was so awful.
not the tune. Yeah, I know you think of the tune, not the tune, but it was called Pump Up the Volume. And the whole point is, he's like, he was this teenager, and he just wanted, rather than the same normal adult sort of rubbish being put through the airwaves, he created his own show. And by the end of the film, you have all these people sort of putting their voices out there and throwing information out there, and that's where we are now. That's the whole point, is that we're now at a point where there's all these streams of information, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to finding out what works for you. Is that, don't be, have to believe everything. It's because you are an intelligent being. Even with the title you gave yourselves, you guys are intelligent guys, and but the difference is nowadays is about using this and using this. It's what feels right, not always what sounds right, but also it's what feels right as well, because a lot of the stuff we were told probably never felt right to begin. Well, it didn't feel right. That's why you guys were disheartened. That's the point. But that same feeling that made you feel things are not right, that same instinct will show you over a period of time. It will show you what is right. It will help you find the way.
I think you talk about newspapers back in the day, and now we have the internet. I don't. Throughout all ages of time, it doesn't matter what the medium is, or the channel, the platform that people use to disseminate information, or how they go about that. People will always try and look at ways of manipulating it, and people always look at how they can take advantage of it for their own benefit or push their own agenda. That's always happened, and it will always continue to happen. But for people who want to change and understand themselves, it always comes from within, and it's always down to the individual to want to make that change. And I think for us, we just want to try and bring a little bit of awareness, or just pique people's interest, and just make them just question the situation they're in. Don't you think?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of ambition.
Yeah, but that's what it. That's what it. Again, going back to the society we're in now, you're just pumped with advertising on TV, on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, social media, and all you're doing is just constantly getting distracted, bombarded, mobile phones. I mean, you can see people on their phone relentlessly. There's no one, well, the way society's going is, you never just sat down peaceful and just thinking about the environment you're in, what you're doing with your life,
never present.
And never present, because you're just constantly distracted. So hopefully this conversation or our podcast or whatever it may be will be one of those distractions that come into their life, and hopefully it will make them just think, right, let me look at it in a different way. But yeah, it's challenging and it's difficult with everything that's going on.
Yeah, but that that's the point. It's meant to be challenging because the easy is sitting there watching TV. And or being on that phone and being bombarded with all that information. There's an old saying. There's an old saying that I grew up with, which was the bigger the TV, the smaller the library. And yeah, have you noticed? Have you ever walked past people's houses and see how big the TVs are now? And the point, what I mean by that is like the library, as in, do they actually study anywhere? Do they look at other information? Do they actually, turn that big thing off and, go out in the world and try to find some, just find independent stuff, because that's the point. If you're watching that one thing, it's like for a Taoist, well, you know, a Sifu is a guide. I'm not your master. I'm not your boss. You know, I don't want you to obey every single word I say. In fact, I want you to go out and bloody have a look out there yourself and find different teachers and find different ways, and then come back and tell me what you found. Because I want you to be independent. I want you, you know, as a good, because a Sifu is also like a parent. You know, the whole idea is a good parent wants you to excel, wants you to be better than them, doesn't want to control you. And you were right about that. You know, organizations or people, what gets in the way is the ego. The Chinese call it the monkey mind. And there's this interesting thing. Cartoons and films have had it. You know, your devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other. Well, in the East, the devil is the monkey mind, and the monkey mind is you know, that voice. Oh, don't sit there. You know, don't sit there and talk, listen to this twat. Go and watch a film, or go and play football, or, you know, and it will always try to distract you and keep you running around in circles. Where your intuition is this very quiet. They call it Buddha thought. Where's my arms that side? They call it Buddha thought. So you've got a little Buddha sitting on your other shoulder, and he whispers. And so you have to be quiet, as you were saying. You know, you have to. If you dare do that such sort of thing, you have to meditate. You have to actually shut up enough to hear what that intuition, and that's the biggest thing. Like, you know, the Taoist and Buddhist point of view is that, yes, you've got all this outside information going on, but there's actually a bloody good teacher inside you. Your own instinct will guide you well and will show you the right way. You've got to listen to it. That's the thing. And we've all been brought up in a society that says, that's, you know, funny stuff. Or, you know, like 1 minute it'll talk about instinct, and the next it'll be, oh, you know, that's whimsical, or that's this, or that's that, you know. But then, you know, and there's this interesting thing going on. And our society, the modern society is very much about right and wrong, this or that, good or bad, the Illuminati and whoever else. And the whole idea is that everything is bad and everything is good, because it all depends on your point of view, and it all depends where you are right at this point. You know, the best thing for you in 10 years' time might not be the best thing for you now. You've got to get to that point in 10 years where you can appreciate it and do it. You know, like meditating may be the best thing for you, but you might have to work up to it. And the weird thing about meditating, that word is so woo-woo. You know, people think you have to sit there cross-legged, hovering, going om. Well, that is a meditation. But if you're a fisherman, or even a footballer, or even ride a bike, or technically drive a car like you're supposed to, as in not a radio on, paying attention to the road, looking at the situation, listening to the situation around you, focusing on what you're doing, that's meditating. So meditating simply means focus on one thing and forget everything else. So if you've ever read a book and, like, you know, and then, you know, the noises in the background disappeared, or you've suddenly gone, you know, you suddenly like go away from that book, or a movie, you know, go to the cinema and you watch a movie and you forget the world for a few hours. That technically is a meditation, because you're focusing on one thing and forgetting everything else. So, but you know, even that sounds a bit woo-woo. You know, being one with the moment. You know, but we actually do it more than we think as kids. And this is the thing with Taoism. Taoism talks about being like a child, because when you was a kid, you know, you could go off in your own little world, and you know, you talked to imaginary people, and you played with, you know, you played games and went off these great adventures. And then at some point somebody said, oh, that's child stuff now, you have to grow up. And you had to suddenly put that away, and that's when your loss started. That's when that emptiness started. When you stopped being connected with the universe, when you stopped being, being spontaneous and playing and being, being in that your own little world and playing with somebody and making things up and having fun. That's when that gap that's now for some people a huge gaping hole in their lives, that's where it all started, because we lost that connection with ourselves and we lost that connection with the universe. We lost that oneness. We lost that connection with the one.
I think one of the biggest challenges is everyone in today's society is greedy and they want something now, and they think they can get it now, and so and they can buy it and consume it now. And when you talk about meditation or whatever it is, as you well know, if you've meditated, you have to work at it to get the benefit from it. Yes, you can sit down and focus on one thing and you can do it for 10, 20 minutes and you can do it a few days. But to really see benefit from it, you have to put in the work. And people don't want to put in the work. They can get a result now. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So again, that comes back to thinking it's woo-woo, or I tried this, I tried that, but it didn't really pay off. It didn't really work for me. Well, no. You're not going to be a professional footballer by just kicking the ball against the wall. You've got to invest time, like everything.
And that's the real interesting thing. That's the key point right there. Is that we say, oh well, I tried that meditation, it didn't work. Yeah, but I bet to do your job, you did it more than twice. Whatever your job is, or your favourite hobby, I bet you practice more than twice to learn that. So you already know how to learn. You already know what it takes. If unless your biggest skill in life is sitting in the pub drinking a beer, well, that still takes some practice. Everything you've learned up to this point, you had to learn. You had to spend time learning. So the difference is that we have this weird society where it says this is okay to do, that's not okay to do. Use the same process to do it, but oh no, that's woo-woo. Or And as you said, this instant gratification, the Chinese call it the golden pill. They expect, to come and do a Tai Chi class and do 2 lessons and they're going to be Jet Li. And it's like, well, no, even Jet Li wasn't Jet Li in 2 lessons. It's the whole point, or Bruce Lee wasn't Bruce Lee in 2 lessons. The whole point is that everything takes practice. But you've only got to look at everything else you've done. Where you got to this point now, anything you've done that's remotely complicated, you spent blooming time doing it. You spent time practicing it. You had to blooming pass your test. I know there's a few people who probably shouldn't have passed the test at driving around there, nowadays. But the whole point is to learn anything and to really enjoy anything, you have to actually spend time doing it. And there is that thing that the first thing you've got to get over is there's no such thing as a golden pill. There's no such thing as an instant download yet. I mean, maybe technology is going to get there with being able to do a matrix and download it. But I think I'd rather spend the time learning it than instantly having it downloaded, because it's a little bit like if you have the food put in on your plate in front of you and you have to cook the food, there's a different feeling. It tastes different, and it is different when
the process is part of the result, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially when the process, like making an egg and bacon sandwich is a lot different to making a palaver. Or a cake, and the whole point of you had to learn all those processes to make it, and you make something that's quite complicated. You get that sense of achievement. You get that sense of you get that point, and that's part of life. That's part of life. Is that the problem is we're so used to instant food, instant this, instant that we've even got that with our relationships now. If we've been together and it's not work, we've had an argument, so that's it, we're over now. We get into that point where certain relationships and certain people are throwing away stuff, and it's really interesting for me. That's really interesting, the instant stuff. Like we got so used to you get TV, and after a year or two it breaks down, you get a new one. I've done Tai Chi and Qigong for 36 years, and I've taught it in old people's homes, and I've spoken to people in their 60s and 70s that had secret meetings. They used to work for television companies or in industries, and there was secret meetings back in the 40s and 50s where they were actually going to design things to break down. They would design, the whole conspiracy theory. Whereas it's not conspiracy, it's true. That's what's happened. Things used to last 20, 30 years. Now they don't. Well, that's because society, industry got greedy. It wants things that break down. It wants, but then that's why we got mountains of rubbish. That's why we got, mountains of things, because we've grown up and changed. Our ways have changed to the point where we got all this crap, we got all this stuff that we got so used to. Oh, well, that's rubbish, we'll throw it away. But you're not going to the whole point is, the one thing people will complain about that is, yeah, but don't complain about it, do something about it, change your ways, stop buying those products. You stop buying those products, you'll force the company to change it.
Yeah, but unfortunately that just won't happen, and we've built a society that unfortunately means now that we rely on all those products. It's like the car. The car was built to give you freedom, but now you rely on the car. So if you don't have the car, you can't get anywhere. We built the internet to share information, and and obviously it's a beneficial thing in many ways. It's probably one of the biggest inventions ever come about. But now we rely on it, and now we won't be able to live without it. Will we?
Sound like the Unabomber.
Well, no, it's true though, isn't it? That's
yes, possibly, but here are you two guys sort of saying you're not happy with stuff, that you want to sort of find ways. Well, if you're not freaks, if you're not totally weird, as in you're not the only two people that are dissatisfied. If other people are dissatisfied, other things will change. Other things will alter.
Yeah, I think there is the way that mindfulness is becoming fashionable, but even that's commoditized as well with apps and it's something to sell.
That's bound to happen because money is our god. Money is a big thing of our society, and unless something happens that money is eradicated, it's always going to sort of be that way. I would love for us to live in a Star Trek society where there is no money, but something major has to happen because we're so obsessed with money being, we couldn't live without money. Why not? Why not? And it's like, whoa, how would you live? It's like, we'd trade, you'd barter, there are societies that actually exist. There's Ubuntu. There's a society called Ubuntu where they actually, it's normally like a small town or group, and they totally work off each other. I can't remember the guy's name who's South African guy.
Yeah, we looked at him. He's on contact list.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, I mean, everything in that though, it works to a small scale, doesn't it? Bartering. You can't barter to get a new TV because it takes too many things to make a TV. There isn't the TV making guy you can sell your apples to get your TV. Once it gets to a certain number of people, it falls apart. That's where capitalism has come through.
Well, unless something else, unless they figure out something else. Like I say, I haven't got the answers. I'm working on this money system because that's the way that's the way it is. I mean, the stuff I do, I teach. The irony is, for me, is in the UK, is that I actually have more students in America, Canada, Australia, and Thailand than I actually do currently in the UK, because there's more people, there's more interest in other countries in these alternative therapies and the alternative things I do than there is actually in this country, which is really odd. But it is. But if you go to the coast, there is more interest, and there always has been in and the coast. And the only thing I can sort of see is because the sea air affects people and makes them more relaxed, more chilled. Maybe they are more interested in it. Who knows? But you know, at the same time, things will. You know, things do change. Things do evolve because that's the way this world works.
Yeah.
Is there in Taoism? Is there like a structured religion of sort? Is there a god? Is there?
Right. Okay. Here we go. So, religion comes from the Latin word religio, which means bond with the supreme being, the supreme one. Technically, you have mono religion or monorealistic, polyrealistic, and I always forget what Taoism is. Right. So mono is one god, poly obviously many. Taoism and Buddhism believe you are God, believe that everything is one, everything is interconnected. So technically, it's not a religion because religion means the bond or to focus on the Almighty. And if everything is the Almighty, then it can't be a religion. So technically, it's classed as a philosophy. But what happened was that in China, when Christianity came over to China, because Christianity set up churches and had priests and whatnot, Taoism said, we'll do that, we can do that. And so they created a style, they created popes, and they created churches to basically to balance, to counter the Christianity that was coming over. But in theory, Taoism is more a state of being, is a philosophy rather than actually a religion, because there is no God in its belief. NLP, which is Western, which is neuro-linguistic programming, it's actually based on Taoist philosophy, and neuro-linguistic programming is basically is on the thing of is that your reality is controlled from within. Is that a lot of what happens to you externally is through programs and through filters internally. So like there's a Darren Brown.
Yeah.
You heard of Darren Brown did this program on luck. This is probably about 8 years out. Did you ever see that one? The one on luck?
The dog. Yeah. It was like a lucky dog in the field or something, and the lottery tickets. Yeah.
But the most interesting thing, which was the way he done that program was a typical NLP, because he's an NLP practitioner and a hypnotist as well as sleight of hand. But the most interesting thing was the butcher who believed he was unlucky, and they proved how much he believed he was unlucky. They first put a beautiful woman in front of him that if he answered 3 questions, he would have got 20 quid. They put a scratch card in his door. If he just scratched the scratch card, he would have got 40 quid. They even put 50 quid note in front of him and he walked straight past it. And then they played the video back and showed him all this, that you're the one making yourself unlucky. That, and this is the premise of neuro-linguistic programming, is that you actually, if you're having a negative life or a negative response in your life, you have to look at what are you feeling internally, because a lot of that internal feeling will be actually this is where they talk about, the law of attraction, is that you're drawing this in. Well, the science sort of says, well, to a degree, that's what's happening, that it is your point of view, your filter, what the observer is seeing is affecting the experiment, and you're the experiment. So your point of view actually changes your reality. So the premise of especially meditation, especially like chanting and qigong to a certain degree, is that what they do is help you alter your perspective. Is that they distract you from that negative just by the distraction is the meditation or the chanting or even the qigong, and it will help you sort out the process. Because the whole thing of sleep is supposed to be that your subconscious mind is actually breaking all these information down and actually working out, solving your problems. But if you're very stressed, you don't sleep very well, and you don't get into that alpha and beta or wavelength where you'll actually be able to process that stuff. So meditation is that same process. It is drawing you into that brainwave state, so you can actually detach your brain and allow the forebrain. They actually say, in, because I've studied, funny enough, because of martial arts, because of Taoism, I've studied theology, psychology, quantum physics, cooking, massage, pretty much quite a few things, because it's all about the Tao, it's all about the way. And there is this thing of there's this whole thing of your state of mind. The forebrain. The forebrain has around about 60,000 thoughts every single day. So there's loads of thoughts going through your brain to distract you. That's what they call the old monkey. That's what they call the old monkey mind, sitting there on your shoulder trying to put you off. So the whole thing of doing meditation or mindful meditation is simply, as much as possible, doing things in a mindful way. The more mindful stuff you do, the more you'll detach, or you'll start to filter out that the conscious mind from the subconscious, allowing the subconscious to actually start solving the situation or solving the problems. And then you'll have less things to stress about. But also, all good seafoods always never takes anything too seriously. So what the freaking hell do I know?
Is Tao the same as Tao? T-A-O?
Yes.
Right.
But basically, the English, the Western world spell it one way, and the Chinese spell it another way. And it's like I don't know, Paul and Powell, or Tim and Tim.
That's Lao Tzu, is it?
Yeah, Lao Tzu. If you was wanting to respect the Chinese, then you'd say Lao Tzu. It's Lao Tzu, like Z. So Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was he wrote, well, depending who you talk to, the Chinese would say it was one man that wrote the book. The West says nonsense. Nobody can be that clever. It must be at least 6 people. And the same was said with Sun Tzu or Sun Tzu's The Art of Strategy, or The Art of War, which is basically used in business. It basically stopped the Americans winning Vietnam. That book is all about the Taoist viewpoint. So in the Taoist viewpoint is not to win the war. Your Taoist viewpoint is to drain your opponent's energy so they can't win. So and that's the same in Tai Chi as a martial arts. That moving stuff is called what was Tai Chi Chuan, which means supreme, ultimate fist or boxing. But all martial arts in the East, in China, they actually are known as the 3 M's. So there should be a martial or fitness side to them, a medical or self-healing side to them, and a meditational or spiritual personal development side to them. So that's why, like, martial arts in China aren't, we in the West think, oh, they're fighting. They're more than fighting. Is that in actual fact is, like, for example, like in wartime, Tai Chi is for fighting. But in peacetime, Tai Chi is for fitness and self-healing. In wartime, Sun Tzu, The Art of Strategy, is for destroying your opponent. In peacetime, it's for building your business up and overcoming your business. In peacetime, massage is for helping people and healing people. Or in China, they call bone setting, which is the osteopath or chiropractor, clicking bones. But in wartime, it's for breaking their bodies and breaking their necks. Everything has a flip side. Everything has another side. But it comes for my regulars. They know it's hammer time.
Yep.
Now this this is where people, again, it's a little bit like Taoism and Taoism. Most people call this yin yang. That's not actually its name. Yin yang would be half a black, or in this case, half a red circle and half a yellow circle. So dead half. And yin yang means opposing opposites. Right, wrong, good, bad, this, that, male, female. This represents balance, represents the universe, represents Tai Chi. So this is also Tai Chi, but it's a different Tai Chi. It's a bit like it's a bit like the word two. You know, there's more than one use for the word two. There's more than one use for. So this is a philosophy. Tai Chi is a philosophy. So it's the philosophy of balancing the yin and the yang to create harmony.
What is that? What is it? Is that like a hammer you've got?
Balanced mallet.
It looks like a mallet.
But yeah. But basically, a friend of mine creates soft war toys, and we've got my school, Shindale School. We obviously do martial arts, but we also do Warhammer tournaments, and the whole. So yeah, it's blooming good fun. I mean, you know, it'll give you a bit of a headache if I really hit you hard with it, but the whole idea of it, his philosophy. His Tao is that fighting is part of playing, and fighting is part of learning. You know, the whole point is that as adults we tend to sort of either go too over the top, or you know, we don't seem to play anymore. We don't seem to have fun. So the whole idea, he created a whole load. He's got soft toy axes, soft toy spears. There's loads of them.
We'll have to get one of them.
Yeah, put us in touch with them.
Yeah, I will. I'll put you in touch with them. Not a problem. So yeah, they are. Or because you're Sloughish.
Wickham.
Wickham. Well, you're not that far away. We'll meet up, and I'll bring the other hammers because I've got a couple, and we'll have a bit of hammer time. So.
Yeah,
But yeah, you know, me, it's got to have a Tai Chi symbol in it. So and then also there's another thing I've got. See, you can't be a Taoist without a lightsaber.
Yeah, very cool.
If you're going to have one lightsaber,
yeah, you need two. Yeah.
And these are proper combat ones. These are actually from a company called Saberforge. So I'll bring the lightsabers for you as well when we meet up. So you can have a whack with them as well. But because there's an interest. See, there's always a play on words with me. Is that George Lucas was there was a lot more going on than he was letting know. Obviously, Darth Vader, Vader actually is German for father. So he used a word that was actually representing father. The word Jedi actually comes from an Egyptian word, which is the Jedi, and the Jedi means the keepers of the pillar of light, and they were a sacred, they were like a secret group who actually practiced things very similar to Qigong, and there are rumors that they are possibly connected to the Taoists, but they were the keepers of knowledge, of light, and a lightsaber is a pillar of light. Yeah. So the Jedi were the keepers of the pillar of light. Yeah. So there's lots of little, you know. I love my props, my tools.
The Force in Star Wars is a bit like we've been saying about everything being connected, isn't it?
He actually took the philosophy. He admitted it back in, I think it was the 80s, that he said that the philosophy of the Force came from Eastern philosophy of Taoism and Buddhism, which is like basically Force is chi. Chi means energy, breath, mist. So it exists. Chi is everywhere, and then but there's different types of chi, and the yin and the yang is, in essence, the yin and the yang are the Sith and the Jedi. And what's coming up in Star Wars next, the next movie, that the whole Last Jedi thing is that in the stories there's a thing called the Grey Code, and the Grey Code are the balance between the Jedi and the Sith. They're taking the passion from the Sith and you know the unconditional like peace and serenity from the Jedi, and they're blending them together. So the grey code is actually Tai Chi. So that's where you're going. You're going, or the Tao. They're actually true Taoists because they're balancing the dark and the light side of the Force. And the Force is energy. The Force is the universe. Anyway, what do I know?
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
If we wanted to read loud, oh, you like to say it again.
Yeah, say what you like. He don't care. He's dead.
What's the best translation?
2 seconds. I will send it. I always forget. Oh, I know where it is. It's over here. Right. So the best translation, for me personally, because the guy actually creates a little workbook, and you can actually like write in it, and he gives you a couple of different translations. He also does the other one, which is I'll send you this. It is, or I'll send you a link for it. So he is R.L. Wing. R.L. Wing does the Tao Te Ching. He's also, the Tao Te Ching is, what that translates to is the book of power. That's what the Tao Te Ching means. And he's also done the art of war, and he's also done the I Ching as well, which are three main philosophies or doctrines of the Taoists, which are really, really interesting. The I Ching, which means little book, is really interesting because it's basically, it's part of this, the bakwa, that symbol. You ever seen that symbol before?
Hold it up, please. Up, so I can see the words.
Oh, the word. Oh no, well the words are there. Those are just lines.
Sorry, I had to open the window. I see.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, so that's called a bakwa, and bakwa means 8 trigrams. So they have you either have 3 unbroken lines or 3 broken lines, so a line into 2 bits, and that makes what's called the 64 trigrams. Now the interesting thing of that is that the 64 trigrams, the actual symbols, are actually what they found in when they do DNA, and they do the codon breaking of the DNA. The codons are straight or unbroken lines, and they actually found that the 64 codons of DNA actually match the 64 lines in the I Ching. So it's like, how the heck did that happen? So yeah, it's nice, lots of little cool stuff like that. So all right, guys. Right. So anyway, for the show, I think we're done. Oh well, let's have a quick look. Is there any questions from my guys out there? So Chris says hello all. Monica says that's amazing. I'm not sure what that was amazing at, but something's amazing. Elizabeth gives it a wave. Monica also says no influence from the doctors. Oh, that could be about when we're talking about medical case studies. Katie Carter has said the entire reason I do not watch TV. Oh, that was obviously, it's talking about the TV stuff. Kathy's also said hello. Luke has said the Illuminati are NASA.
NSA.
Yeah, the NSA.
Thank
you. My dyslexia kicked in then. Thank you very much for saving me. Yes, the NSA, yeah, the Illuminati and the NSA. Yeah, well, but it's all a little bit like the ego, you know. For me as a Taoist, it's like you guys said it yourself. There's always going to be a bad guy. There's always, you know, like you're always going to have bad days. Bigger the down, the bigger the up. But when you're having a bad day, look at all the great days you've had and know that bad day has to end, and that will be replaced with a good day, because that's the cycle of life. But hey, what the heck do I know? Right, so okay, guys, we'll go wrap this one up if that's all right with you.
Absolutely,
yeah, of course,
no problem.
Right, have you? Right. So when does your podcast start?
We've got 3 more to record,
Right.
And then we'll launch with 6, and then hopefully weekly.
Yeah.
So within the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. At least maximum.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, always, what keep this link, or the actual link for the view, and then eventually, when you create it, you can always stick it on here, and that'd be all. Or actually, when you start, I'd love to have you guys on the show again, if that's all right with you. And we'll actually kick it off. I mean, there's a couple of different things I'm actually connected to. So anyway, you guys out there, I hope you enjoyed the show. The 7th, which is 2 days' time, isn't it? The 7th, we have Robbie McKenzie and doing his new book, The Macabre and the Twin Flames. And you're probably going to have Emily Harrison, known to me as C4E. She's probably going to be on the show as well. So you might want to watch that one. So you guys take care. Bye for now. Love, Chi, and Shen from myself, Seafood Buggy, these two awesome fellas, Jim and Ian, and from the Way of Conscious Mindfulness. So take care, guys. Bye for now. See you later.